Hi.
Hello.
How are
Welcome.
you?
So thank you so much, Ayesha Vera-Yu, for joining my show. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is Filipino Hustle Fridays. I love interviewing awesome Filipino Americans and Filipino entrepreneurs. So thanks for taking the time to be here today.
Oh my gosh, Julia, thank you so much for inviting me and also wanting to put a spotlight on ARK and how we are solving hunger for good in just 16 weeks. So thank you. It means so much to us, really. For two reasons. One, we've talked about it in the past where in our community here, I feel this longing of wanting to engage and wanting to gather and learn from each other. And sometimes it's hard to do that. And so you doing this, it's such a treat. And then second, I'm just also as interested in learning about you and hearing your path. And my pahabol ako, I have a sing it, which is, I think the third one is, to the extent that what we do, which is create food security for our kapwas, the farmers and fisher folk in the Philippines who really feed us and feed the world, the food we cannot live without. And see how that could resonate with other people in our community. I really appreciate that platform and that opportunity.
No, and thank you. I mean, you're an amazing person to have on, really. I mean, for those who aren't familiar, you're an investment banker, right? Turned social impact innovator. And so you're the CEO and co-founder of ARK, an award-winning social impact venture that creates a path with rural communities in the developing world. And so you focused in the Philippines, right? It sounds like it's something that you want also to do beyond. That's probably a conversation for later, but it's amazing. It's amazing. You've already done so much since the pandemic. ARK has grown 25x in scale, grown the equivalent of close to 4 million meals for 138,000 individuals. That's amazing. And that's just scratching the surface.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know how you do it.
With a team and like a whole community of people and partners. That's how we do it. Never alone. You can't do anything alone, but it's really, we do it with everyone who is wanting to be involved in, solving hunger for good and wanting to make sure that this pain point doesn't persist anymore, So we have, I don't know if this is a good time to share it, but we have a program in ARK. It's called Feedback. And what it does is it's a community-wide vegetable exchange. And the fact that it's an exchange, it's what's inspiring, families to farm in their backyards and farm their food needs in their backyards. And so what we're finding is that in just 5 weeks, 6 weeks, they're already getting all of their food needs from their backyards. Wow. And on the 6th week, when the exchange actually starts, whatever that's an excess, they're bringing that to share with their neighbors. And the whole program is 16 weeks. And so at the end of the program, the impact that we see is that families are food secure, kids are healthy, they're eating vegetables, they're going to school, malnutrition is gone, and the community, we hear from kapitans and the village leaders that the community is so loving to each other and sharing and so united, and the things that used to happen, like petty theft, like someone stealing a chicken because they're probably hungry, and desperate, or like chismes, in a negative way. They're saying that's been abolished, that's been erased. Like
Wow.
So through Feedback, what they're finding is that it's really made the community united. It's made the community really sharing and loving with each other. And at the same time, with all of the excess and that creation of local food source, they have become now the suppliers of nourishing food
Wow.
for their region. And that really, really matters because, you know, when we think about hunger, when we think about malnutrition, that's, you know, like it's a systemic problem, you know?
Right.
So what happens in the Philippines is in every rural area, right, where we have, you know, in the rural areas, that's really where all of our food comes from, right? The food that we can't live without, that rice that we can't live without. In those areas, even though it's a farming community, because of the monocropping culture, you will find that food, like vegetables or other types of protein, come from afar, sometimes from another province, sometimes from another island. And then when you add the transportation cost, which is in US dollars, right? Because crude oil is traded on US dollars, then you layer that on. And so now the food cost is really expensive. So a farmer or a fisher folk who only has one kind of crop to get income from now cannot afford to buy those nourishing food for their family. And so what we do through feedback is we enable the farmers and the fisher folks who only have one crop the ability to grow their food for themselves, so they have savings, and at the same time create excess, so now they have an additional source of income that is not dependent on, oh, is it the fishing season, you know, that doesn't, or it's the rainy season, so we can plant rice. But it's really a product that they can get cash flows the entire year.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I mean, I have like a little insight that only because my dad and mom decided to retire there, and they decided to have their own farm, and their view at a small scale was to help local, you know, neighbors to be able to work and pay for themselves and eat.
Yeah.
Like to have access to food. So it's amazing what you've done at scale. And so you're solving the problem of hunger, but also it looks like it's affected, it slashed carbon footprint throughout creation of the local food system, which is amazing. But I would love to go back in time, like your story. You know, you went to Colombia, which is also awesome. Like, where are you from originally?
So I'm from the Philippines. I was born there. I lived there till I was 13. My family, so for those who live in Quezon City, I grew up in Quezon City. And then I also I also spent time in Iloilo because my mom's side of the family is from Capiz. And my mom got promoted and was running, was opening up branches for a bank in that city. So we moved there. And then after that, moved back to Manila. And when I was 13, probably earlier, when I was 11, my mom decided that, you know, the politics of that time, right, was very tricky. You know, in the 80s, there was so much instability. There was so much, there was so much instability that my mom did not see what she thought was like a good chance for us at our future there at that time. And so that's what prompted her to migrate here to the US.
Was that like the 80s or?
Yeah, that was in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, so my mom came here in, my mom came here in 86. I mean, it was, you know, the 80s were crazy because, right, like that we were just, I mean, there was still martial law, the shroud of martial law. And I think also at that time, like, well, poverty has really gone up too. And also just, you know, just that path to the future for an equitable future was really not available, it was so diminished and was so unclear that there was, you know, if you go back to the late 70s to the 80s, really, there was a lot of exodus from the Philippines to other parts of the world. You know, if you think about that.
Wow.
We could talk about we could talk about the past too. But So my mom came here in 86 to San Francisco, and we followed in 88. So first it was my mom, and then my dad in 87, then us in 88. Yeah.
We were okay. What high school? Like, where did you go for school?
I finished 6th grade in the Philippines, and like shout out to Philippine education. When I got to the U.S., I got accelerated to 8th grade, so I did Francisco Middle in San Francisco, and then I went to Lowell High School for 2 years before moving to New York.
Goodness!
Yes.
I wonder if I had friends that went to Lowell.
But Julia, I feel like you're much younger than me, though, so I don't know. I'm just faking it, okay? But I know you're legit younger than me.
No, well, okay. I'm class of 99. So
I don't even want to tell you what.
Okay, you don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me. Okay, but okay, so Lowell is obviously one of the best.
Sorry, yeah. You go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, Lowell is one of the best high schools in the city. Yeah. So yeah, like it's amazing. So then okay, you were gonna say something. Go ahead.
No, I would just want to ask you, like, class of 99 for high school or for college? Because I'm like, how much younger are you? Do we even the same song?
No, I'm like high school. I went to Westmore.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But then, my parents moved in the middle of the high school years. But okay, so then you got accepted. Like, did you go to Columbia, or you got your MBA?
No, I got my MBA in Columbia. So when we moved to New York, I went to the school that I was zoned at. So at that time we lived in Flushing. So I went to John Bowne, and it was such a, like you were saying earlier, I think when I went to Bowne, it was like the top 10 high school in the country, or if not the country, in California. Wow. And I was applying to like the equivalent magnet schools here in New York, like Stuyvesant and Brooklyn Polytechnic, and I got in. But then they were like, oh, you have to repeat your sophomore year. And I was like, I'm sorry. High school is already one of the hardest seasons in our lives. You want me to repeat it? No. And I'm like, no. And so like, oh my God, my militancy is probably showing up even back then. So I ended up going to the high school I was zoned in, and I had found it. If you have San Francisco and Bound listeners here, I have found it to have been an amazing education. So yes, I was on the AP track, but what I found amazing about it was the diversity. There were so many Ayeshas. There was an Ayesha from Pakistan. There was an Ayesha. There was so many of us. And because school, right? Like we learn, yes, of course we learn from our teachers, right? I mean, there's a good element of that. But I think the other part that I took away was I learned so much from my classmates, and I found in John Bowne both like a combination of the academic rigor, but also the street smarts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh my goodness.
Whereas in Bowne, whereas in Lowell, it's like, I want to say like we're 80% nerds. You know what I mean? And then I thought John Bowne was more a reflection, more representative of the world.
Yeah, okay, that's amazing. And then, okay, what made you pick Columbia? Like, what eventually?
So before Columbia, I'm gonna squeeze in. I went to Mount Holyoke College.
Oh, okay.
And there I
right.
I guess I really had a stage of like being rebellious. So I really I'm very close to my mom, but I guess at that point, I was like 17, 18. I chose all of these colleges that were so far away. I chose Berkeley, like Rice University down south, and because I wanted to do pre-med, I wanted to, like, I really, really love biology. And I think Mount Holyoke was the closest one. So I did biology and chemistry there, and politics. So that's, to get to Columbia from there was investment banking. Yeah. So when I got into banking, it was a fluke, like I had graduated a semester early. as I said, like I studied biochemistry, right? And my minor, like the two minors that I was one class away from being considered a true minor was politics and art history. So I come back I finish a semester early and I come to New York and I'm like, well, I don't have a job, and I was looking for, I was looking for a job. And at that time, I'm really dating myself. There's such a thing called temp agencies. Okay. There's such a thing as temp agencies. And a friend of mine told me about it. They test your typing skills and all that. And then within 2 days, they sent me to a job and it happened to be Paribas. Oh. So, yeah. And so after again, if it hasn't come through yet, I'm a nerd. So I'm the type of person where even if my position was, okay, answer phones, fax this, do this, like if I have idle time, I start reading. And so in the first week, I just started asking questions of all these things that I'm reading that it caught people's attention. And then within so they asked me to stay another week. It was only supposed to be a 1-week placement. And then I believe in the end of the first week, I was already helping the analysts and the associates write industry sections of this information memoranda that would go to investors, to buy the debt. And also, and this is the power, right? This is why what you're doing is so important. It's the power of community. So the head of that department, it's a syndication department, and it's like the triage. It's like probably one of the most insane departments in an investment bank. And she's a woman, a Mount Holyoke alum. She heard that I was from Mount Holyoke. This is at the end of the first week. She calls me. She was on maternity leave. She calls me and she's like, Ayesha, what do you want to do? I'm going to see if I could help you. Okay. And right, that's community, right? That's community. And there's a power to that. Granted, she wasn't there anymore, but like when I say not there anymore, I mean, not there physically, but her lieutenants, also knew that she was wanting to help me. That also inspired them to take me seriously. And so after a month, they offered me a job. And the job was, okay, you'll do secretarial work, but you'll help us with analyst work. And then at night, we'll send you to NYU so that way you can get accounting, corporate finance, and quant, right?
Wow.
And then after 3, so I'm doing that at night and I'm doing secretarial work and I'm also on a live deal, like for 3 months or less. And after the 3rd month, like they finally moved me to the business line, and I grew very, very quickly. So I'm going to just share this because I feel like as a community, we just need to celebrate ourselves. So I grew very quickly. I worked my ass off. I hustled. That's why I love your show. I hustled. And I was the youngest VP, I believe. I was a VP at 25. And I had seen like a lot of volume, a lot. Wow. So I probably had funded or helped raise capital for all types of industries, all types of companies. Name one, I probably have dabbled in it. I knew though, because finance wasn't in my background, that I wanted that. And so I got the bank to sponsor me to get my MBA at Columbia. So yes, they paid for it.
Wow.
But of course I have to give me of course I had to tell them I'll stay with you for 2 years, but you got to pay for this because I don't like debt. I hate debt. I'm already in the business of debt. I understand it, but I don't want to take out debt on a degree.
Oh, that was smart.
Yeah. So
unlike most business owners. That's wonderful.
I ended up staying with the bank and got, again, promoted and was one of the youngest directors and team leaders for the bank, handling acquisition finance and leverage finance.
Yeah, you managed, and I saw that you managed multi-billion-dollar.
Yeah,
that
happened. Yeah, multi-billion-dollar cross-border transactions, absolutely.
Oh my goodness, and mergers and acquisitions, which is pretty awesome too. And that's just like part of it. And then you sent me more information, and I'm like, she was recognized by the World Economic Forum as a young global leader. I'm like, what? not even, my team missed a lot. That's your intro. Yeah, no, this is awesome. So, okay, what, after all those years in finance, what made you, obviously there's so much passion behind what you're doing with ARK.
Yeah.
Like, what got that started?
A number of things. Like the first one is, like I said, like I like to learn something new every year. And back in 2006, I had already been in the bank for quite some time. And even though, as I said, I was a director, I was a team lead, I was responsible for a business unit, responsible for P&L and leading these insane acquisitions that have to be done in sometimes under 2 weeks. I wasn't learning anymore, you know? And I remember one day my mom came to me, this was in 2006, and she was like, hey, your cousin is looking to sell his share of the family farm. And it's a really small farm. And when I say small, I mean small. Like I've talked to people when they say like, oh, we have a small farm in the Philippines and it's like 500 hectares. I was like, no, that's not a small farm. That's a hacienda. That's like a large hacienda. Okay. So when I say farm, I truly mean a small farm, like 16 hectares divided among 9 siblings. Okay. So that's like 1.5 hectare each. Anyway. But what drew me to it was the opportunity to learn how to restructure, because it was something that I dabbled in syndications when I first started. And also I learned a little bit more in business school. And I really wanted that chance to learn how to restructure and learn how to operate things that I couldn't quite have the platform for in the bank, right? You know? And so I said to my mom, sure, I'll buy him out, but I will only get involved if you also say yes to my ask, which is that we bring back the way our grandparents farmed, which is ecological, holistic, and change the way we engage with our partner farmers. You know, instead of doing sharecropping, which really doesn't work, right? It just puts all of the risk on the farmer and nothing on the landowner. And it doesn't work, you know, at all. Like the landowner never gets paid their share of like whatever, 30 or 40% of harvest, you know, because in the Philippines with 20 typhoons per year, and that was before climate change, right? It could just happen that whatever that was planted in the ground is gone. And then what are you going to do? You know, the farmer was already out of debt, borrowed money from you to buy the seeds, to buy the synthetic fertilizers, to buy all of that, you know, because the current way of farming in the Philippines and in other places is with chemicals, right? And that puts farmers in a structural bind. So it doesn't work. So I said, I want to fix that, right? And because it's like not fair too, you know? And it's like, I just hear you guys complaining about, oh, this farmer didn't pay me, still owes me. I'm like, this is a partnership. You know, they're putting their heart and soul into the land. And yes, you have like the deeds to the land and your parents bought the land, but still like, you know, like how do we come up with a solution where everyone wins, you know? And so that's how I got involved. And so I was a banker by day from 2006 to 2009. And then at night I was a farmer because like I was like restructuring the farm. What I learned at that point doing that is, oh my God, despite my degrees, Julia, farming is one of the hardest businesses to make work. As a farmer, not only do you need to know about the biology, the science in plant life, you need to be like a weather person and a geologist, and you need to be an entrepreneur because you need to sell your product, and you need to be a marketer and like a PR person, and then you need to be a good manager too, right? Because you're not farming alone. That's a lot to put on someone, you know? Yeah. And to put on someone with very, very, very little ability to have any breath, right? And so what I had found was, what I realized when restructuring the farm was there is this systemic system, right? Where farmers are in the in the current situation of farming chemically, they are really stuck in a bind. And what I mean by that is, well, first, they don't truly have access to many types of capital, right?
Mhm.
So many farmers only have one, two access of capital. One is that landlord, and another one is that money lender, both of which lend money at 25% interest rate, 20% interest rate that you have to pay back in 4 months. Okay. And so and then because of chemical farming, you now have to buy all of your inputs, your rice or your corn, especially if it's GMO. You can't save it. You have to keep buying it every year. You have to buy all of your synthetic chemicals and your pesticides, all of those, right? The synthetic fertilizer, I mean, that's like a byproduct of crude oil. So that's also traded in the global market, right? So now you have farmers having to borrow money at a high interest rate to buy all these products that are not even made within the village or made by companies, for the price point for which are traded in the global markets, yet they can only sell their rice in peso. So there's already a currency arbitrage there, right? And then I've been in this business now for 15 years. In the 15 years that I've been involved in farming and social impact, the price per kilo per rice has not gone above $13. Sorry, 13 cents. I lie. It's 13 pesos per kilo. It's 13 pesos per kilo, which is like, wow, 30 cents USD, right? And just to give you guys a sense, even, when I did this math, like going back 10 years ago, they would get for the 1 kilo of rice, 13 pesos, at the max. But to buy mongo, which we all love as Filipinos, which is so hearty and nutritious, that's over 75 pesos per kilo.
Oh my gosh.
So of course, the farmers who are feeding us the rice we can't live without can't even feed their family. And therefore you have, there you go, their kids who are malnourished, right? And during the planting season, which is when, which is from June to August, right? Because most of the farmers are most of the farmers are dependent on rain for irrigation. That time from June to August is what is known as the hunger season, because they've already borrowed money to buy the seed, buy all of those things. And they're even also borrowing money just to buy the rice for them to consume. So what I found going back to 2009 when I co-founded ARK is that kids were dropping out of school, not because their parents don't want to send them to school. It's because they're dropping out because of hunger, because by July, they're no longer eating that one meal a day. They now have to find work, even at a young age of 9 or 10, just to feed themselves. And it's so painful, right? I mean, Julia, like I'm a mother now, and I can't even think of, it's so painful to think of the shame and just the physical pain of not being able to feed your kid, right? That's why no one talks about hunger, because it's nakakahiya, because it's so painful. It really hurts us deeply as parents to say to someone, I'm hungry and I can't feed my kid, right? And so we saw that during the pandemic, right? We saw that. So prior to the pandemic, like that hunger and that pain became acute during the pandemic. Wow. And before the pandemic, we had this is how I got that nomination to the WEF, is because we created this program called the ARK Lunch, which is until now, the world's first and only 5-cent self-sustaining lunch. It is a school lunch that parents pay for, right? And fully fund after 3 years. And so of course, during the pandemic in the Philippines, everyone was on lockdown, and we had to come up with like we still had partners at that time that were like, hey, binabato na kami. People are throwing stones at our rooftops because they're really desperate and they're mad, thinking like, hey, where did that cash amelioration that the government promised, where did it go? And our partner leaders in the communities they're good people. They're like, it never came. And so this is now going back to April or May of 2020. They're saying, Ayesha, let's figure this out. And so we said, yeah, the ARK team is here. We know I'm not firing anyone. Let's do it. And so what we did is we took a food security solution that was in school, brought it out to the community. And the way we like to solve is inclusive, So we're not just going to solve for those parents that partnered with us and for school age kids. We want to solve for everyone in the community, meaning whatever solution we come up with, everyone must be able to access. And the second thing is, I don't believe, I hate lines. And plus we were in the middle of the pandemic, right? Do we really want a super spreader event? So we said, well, first of all, we cannot do, everyone is home anyway. We cannot do like a cooked food operation. Let's do a fresh food operation. And let's not have lines. Let's decentralize. Let's bring it to every purok, every neighborhood. So that way people can just walk to it. And you don't need to have money to get to pay for someone to bring you there, which cost, money at that time was not available, right? Cash was not available. And so we decentralized it. And because all the parents were home anyway, we said, well, yeah, let's just focus on fresh vegetables and let the families cook the meals at home. They're home, right? And so the way we solve is, first, it's inclusive. The second one, it's always thinking about what is important for people. And that is of course, they need cash, they need income. And so the exchange is essentially a pseudo market, right? So what we're basically saying, hey, you can be part of this exchange. All you have to do to be part of this exchange is farm at least 3 kinds of vegetables, the ones that you love to eat, and then contribute your excess to this exchange. And what you will get is your fair share of over 20 kinds of vegetables that your neighbors are also going to contribute to the exchange.
Oh, that's so cool.
And that was the hook. And then we also made it very fun and fair, so when people contribute, there is a raffle system. So for every 50 pesos worth or $1 worth of vegetable you contribute, that's valued by whatever the prevailing market rate is for that vegetable in that village near your town, you get 1 raffle ticket. And what we have found is that it created fairness. It honored what people wanted to share. And it just created the fun too. So, of course, people want to win, and then lastly, there's games and, there's games and singing and dancing. And it just created this fiesta feel, So this is as I said, it's a 16-week program that at the end of it gets families already food secure, gives them excess that they can now make money out of. And it really makes the community stronger, investing in each other, and gives them a new industry, right? To be the supplier of nourishing and affordable vegetables for their region. So all of these other villages don't have to import from afar.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. I mean, how is it that I haven't heard about you until recently?
Because we suck at PR and marketing. And that's the other reason why I'm so happy we've been so nerdy, right? We've been so nerdy. And the first focus in the first 3 years was really to solve. Because like I said, the hunger was so acute that we wanted to share the solution as soon as we tested it and it worked across as many communities. So now we've actually replicated the impact in 77 communities across 8 provinces. We've secured food and income for over 19,000 families, and we've made food affordable and accessible to over 138,000 lives.
Wow.
And and this impact is sustainable. It's lasting. So we've checked back on those communities that graduated a year ago, 3 years ago. And what we've heard is that over 90% of the families who participated in feedback still farm in their backyards. The families continue to be healthy. There is no malnutrition in the village. And and they just continue to add supply lines. So that's why I'm so excited that you gave us this platform, because I want to share this to our kapwa, to our community, in case there are someone there who is also wanting to solve for something that is painful, something that you like, solving for food, solving for health, solving for self sustainability. If you want to do this, please talk to us, because it's, ARK is, first of all, it's providing an alternative path, right? I kind of got drawn into social impact because I got sick and tired of handouts, because handouts don't work. It's
Right.
just a colonistic, it's one of the things that we learned through our colonial past, this benefactor beneficiary. You cannot solve if you think that you have a better solution than the person who's actually living with the problem. It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is you need to have buy-in. So our
Mm-hmm.
solution, which costs $25 per family to secure their food and income for life, right, is matched by the investment of the barangay or the local community and the municipality.
Wow.
1 for 1, right? So we only partner with those communities that are determined and invested and have already put in the money and funds towards the program.
Wow.
And so it's that buy-in, that investment, that determination that enables the community to achieve their goals of food security and self-sustainability. And you and I, take on the most effective role, which is that of a champion, which is us fueling their desires and letting them know that they're not alone in doing something new, that where they're holding their hands, walking the path alongside them. That championing of each other is also something that I want to bring back in our community. We had it before colonization. And I think it's part of our healing as a community that we need to practice that more. So that's what, so for any of your listeners who just want to be part of a revolution, and want to fuel all of these communities in the Philippines who are now being examples for their region and examples for the world, because we now have a playbook that we want to test out in Africa or another part of the world this year. So, and we are looking for champions. This year, we're looking to partner with 45 communities in one go. So if you have, yes, exactly. So if you want to partner and solve for hunger for good, awesome. Let's do it.
Yes. And for people, like I put your socials and just make sure that people follow you. First of all, I didn't even mention, obviously you've made fundamental change already. Actual impact, you're not just talking about a vision and a dream. This is what you've done it, Now you have a real working prototype and you've done it. And so all these big companies have recognized it, like Google, Microsoft, Coca-Cola. It looks like they've partnered with you at some level. I mean, that's so impressive. Fortune 500 companies lining up to support you. And so I wish I could give you a standing ovation. I'm just amazed that you took the time out of your busy schedule to talk about this. I feel like you should have your own show and just when's your book coming out? Do you have a book?
Oh my God, can we work on that? Maybe can we work on that?
Oh my gosh.
I would love that. But as I want to just go back to what you asked earlier. It's not just me. I'm right now. I lead the organization and I'm a talking head, but it's really a team, right? All of those partners, like whether it's NCR Foundation, whether it's, like the Filipino Googlers Network at Google, like all of those. And you could see in the team and in our board how colorful we are, that it's not just Filipinos, it's also other people of different backgrounds who are wanting to solve hunger for good, and also wanting to dismantle structural situations and inequitable situations that don't make sense, So we're hiring too. So yeah, we're hiring too, because we're growing. As I said, we're sharing it nationally this year in the Philippines, and we want to test the playbook out to a different part of the world that could benefit. The idea is that, the people who, like, I love food. We can have like another podcast just talking about food. Like, I love food. And on both sides of my family, both sides have been involved in food. And I just think that it's wrong that the people who are feeding us can't feed their families. And so I want to change that, and then I also want us to have a system that we grow that holistically benefits all, from the farmer all the way to us as consumers, right? So that way we too are eating food without toxicity, without pesticides, without these things. So, yeah.
Wow.
And plus, like, organically and naturally grown food just tastes so much better.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be expensive.
No,
doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't.
And most people don't even realize how amazing the ground, like the fertile ground is in the Philippines. Like, my dad has told me a lot.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Well, the ones that haven't been bastardized by chemical farming is fertile.
Oh, right.
But the ones that have had 40 years of chemical farming, you have to rehabilitate. It's no longer fertile. That's dead soil.
There's so much to learn from you. My gosh. Like, there has to be, I mean, I'm sure there's an ongoing educational program or some sort to, like,
can we partner? Because I feel like these are the things that, like, I love. I mean, these are the things that we dream about, but I think it's probably this year we'll be investing in it, in making sure that what we are learning and what we are doing and what we are and just showcasing the amazing and innovative ways our partner communities are, like, how they're going about their dreams and creating that food security. I think we can all learn from them. So I also want to create that platform where we have more sharing.
Yes. Oh man. Yes. We have to have an ongoing conversation for sure. And yes. I know you have, like, it's coming up. You have another appointment. I want to respect.
Yes.
But then for those of you, obviously please everyone follow ARK, and then Ayesha and her team just sign up for their emails and share their social media post, spread the story. Please reach out to ARK because they are doing amazing things. And Ayesha, thank you so much for telling us your story. We needed a 3-hour segment for you. This is like not even enough time.
I know, you're right. Well, we should do like an extended. When you get your book out. Yes. Well, this just sparks the launch of and kickstarts like a possible collaboration and how we could do it. So
yes.
I'm up for it. I'm down. I'm down.
Like, I can't wait. Like, I'm gonna just connect all the guests and be like, y'all need to meet one another because I can see you guys helping each other out. So
yes, definitely.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and end the show as is, and then I'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much.
Thank you